Welcome back. We are going to do PenTest Plus and Certified Ethical Hacker. There's a lot of overlap between these two certifications. And so instead of doing one and then the other one, I just decided to combine them into one big one. I'm thinking about doing the same thing for my Network Plus and CCNA because I'm having some feedback for those, and those are definitely some exams that we could combine. I feel like there's some really good information on both sides of the house, especially with PenTest Plus and CEH. I think PenTest Plus does a little bit better of a job, and so a lot of the questions are going to be pulled from there. We are going to have some CEH questions, but honestly, they're so overlap. There's like, I want to say 80 or 90% overlap between the two, and so a lot of the questions can be derived from both of them. So just like before, if you've watched my other videos, we're going to do 5 questions. We're going to dive into those questions and explain why the answer is the answer to help you pass your certification exam. And let's get started with it. Let's just jump right in. Question number 1. You are tasked with ensuring that your company's network is compliant with PCI DSS. During an audit, you found the following non-compliance issue with cardholder data environment, the CDE. Requirement 6.1, ensure that all system components and software are protected from known vulnerabilities by installing applicable vendor-supplied security patches. Your issue? Several critical patches for the web server software are missing. What should we do? Which steps should we take to address this issue? We're going to start off with a pretty easy one, I think. I feel like that's a great way to start any type of new exam series. Is the very first question, give you kind of an easy one. If you find this question to be overly difficult, if you have no idea, you're probably in over your head. You're probably a little bit in over your head. And I don't mean to be mean about it. I'm just telling you. You should probably look at either CYSA or Sec Plus would be my guess. All right? I would go that route first. If you don't already have Security Plus, I would definitely do that before PenTest Plus. And I would actually recommend CYSA before PenTest Plus or even Certified Ethical Hacker. I feel like there's a lot of good information on there that I would be doing first before going down this road. Okay? But everybody wants to be a hacker. Everybody wants to be a hacker, and so they're really after these certifications. That's what I get. Can you do it without them? Yes. Should you? I would say no. You shouldn't. All right. But let's see if we can answer this question. As always, if you need more time, go ahead and pause that video while we answer it. So, what steps should be taken to address this issue? What do you think? Do you think we should disable the web server until patches are installed? Absolutely not. We are not disabling a web server for patches. That's not something we're going to do. Maybe if we had a change requirement or if somebody came down the pipeline and was like, yeah, let's disable the server. Maybe then, but I would need like 100% somebody to go through the change management process and literally write out and say, we're going to retire the server. We are not disabling web servers because of a patch. It's not going to happen. Web servers are usually making our enterprise money. And remember that as much as we love to say that cybersecurity saves the company money, it doesn't save that kind of money. And so we are definitely not disabling the web server. And so A is going to be 100% incorrect. That leaves B, C, or D. B, C, or D. I feel like we can knock out C. Ignore the issue as the web server is behind a firewall. We are not ignoring issues on our web servers. We may write them off. We may go through an examination for risk, and we may decide through that risk factor that it's not worth updating. We may decide other avenues, but we don't ignore them. We don't ever ignore an issue, especially just because it's behind a firewall. Not something we're not going to do. Not an option. That leaves B and D. B and D. What do you think? Well, we could upgrade the web versions on the server. And this can be beneficial, but it doesn't directly address the issue. Because we can see several critical patches on the web server software are missing, and this just says that we should upgrade the web server to the latest version. That may not take care of our problem. Just because we upgrade to the latest version doesn't mean that we're patching it. And that's really what we want to do. We want to apply the missing patches immediately and then document it. So B is going to be our correct answer. That is going to be where we're going to go in. That's the most appropriate answer or the best answer. And there you have it. There's B. Let's move on. Question number 2. You're analyzing a recent CVE for potential impact on your organization. Details as follows. 2023-1234 the buffer overflow, or I'm sorry, a buffer overflow vulnerability in XYZ software allows remote attackers to execute arbitrary code. CVSS score 9.8. 9.8. What should be our immediate action? What should be our immediate action? What do you think? What is going to help resolve this issue? What do you think? I'm going to give you a second. Remember, we only want to spend about 45 seconds to a minute on these easier questions. And again, somebody would ask me, well, okay, well, the last one you said was easy. What do you think this one is? I would still say this is an easy one. I would say that if you're still having problems with these types of questions and you don't yet have Security Plus, you might want to go get it. Okay, I'm gonna say it. I'm sorry. I'm gonna pound my hand into the wall. If you want to be an ethical hacker, if you want to be somebody that's really dives into it in a depth level, you got to know these easier questions. This question and the last one, pretty easy, to be honest, in this context, for something like this, right? If you need more time, go ahead and pause the video. We're going to answer this one. What should be your immediate action? Reboot all the systems running the XYZ system, because nothing fixes a vulnerability like turning it off and turning it back on again, right? That always fixes our issues. No, we're cyber, not IT. Yes, I made a plug at IT. I'm sorry, I can't help myself. I worked IT for a very long time, so I'm sure that people that are in IT are laughing at me. No, in this case, rebooting the system and turning it off and turning it back on is not going to solve our issue. Not an appropriate response. Not going to be it, right? Okay, what else do you think we should get rid of? I feel like disabling the affected software and apply the patches when we get around to it is always an acceptable answer. You know what we should do? I know that you use that software every single day over in HR, but do you really need it? Let's just go ahead and shut it down. We'll patch it in a couple weeks and get around to it sooner or later. It's not a big deal. Why are you upset with me, random HR person? I know you use it every day and can't do your job without it, I should say, but you know, it's just a software. You'll get over it. No, that's not what we're doing. We're not disabling affected software components and applying patches when we feel like it. That's not something we're going to do. I believe that leaves B or C. B or C. Do we notify the software vendor and request a patch, or do we apply available mitigations and monitor for a patch release? Which one are we going to do? Which one? Ultimately, we want a patch. That is 100%. We want to patch the software. How are we going to, but do we want to notify the software vendor, or do we want to apply mitigations? What is the immediate action? What should be first? Should we call the vendor, or should we apply mitigation strategy? I feel like if you're in cybersecurity, you know that yes, we are going to notify the software vendor, but we're going to apply mitigations first. We're going to work on that process. We're very much going to go apply mitigations, monitor for a patch. Chances are that the software vendor already knows that there's an issue, okay? So if they don't have already released a patch yet, and that's not one of our options, right? Then if we don't have a patch, then we're going to apply mitigation. We're going to mitigate the vulnerability, and then we're going to monitor for a patch release. We're probably going to notify the software vendor as well, but we're definitely going to be looking for that patch. But our first action is to mitigate it. We're going to look for a patch first. And if there's no patch available, then we're going to mitigate. That's the streamlined effect. So C is going to be our correct answer on that one. All right. Question number 3. You performed a network scan using Nmap with the following command. Nmap SV, switch P, and then we've identified some random numbers, 22, 80, and 443. I feel like you know what those are on this IP address. The output provides us 22, 80, and 443, and all that information. You have to know Nmap. You have to know it. Have to know Nmap. So based on the output, what are the potential risks and mitigations associated with it? What are the potential risks and mitigations? I would rate this question as hard. We went from easy to hard on this one. You got to know what you're looking at. You got to know what you're looking at for this one. So what are we looking at here? I'll give you a second to read through this, right? Because not an easy one, I think. Not an easy one, I think. What do you think? All right, let's start with A. Go ahead and pause the video if you need to. We're gonna move through this, right? Let's start with A. SSH and HTTP are open. Yes, they are. They are both open. Ensure they are secured with strong passwords. I feel like that is a good answer. Like especially for SSH, we would want a strong password, right? HTTP, would we want a strong password? I assume they're talking about for our admin page. And so yeah, I would think that's viable. I would think that that's a good answer. Is there a better answer? Let's go down to B. HTTP service is outdated. What is it running? It's running 2.4.18. Yeah, that is outdated. It is outdated. So definitely, yes. Consider upgrading to the latest version. I feel like that is something that we could do. Another good answer. Another good answer. C. SSL is using OpenSSL 1.0.2G. Check for any known vulnerabilities and patch. Yeah, I would want to do that. Those are all things that I would want to do. And then D, all of above. I feel like it's going to be D. All of these are potential risks, and all of them have valid mitigational strategies associated with it. And so normally in this, I'm going to look for a specific one. But I got to be honest with you, none of them stand out to me. And so I feel like D, all the above, is accurate, because it is accurate. We do see OpenSSL. We should definitely check for vulnerabilities and patch, right? Is that the best answer? Probably not. What about HTTP services outdated? It 100% is outdated. Can we consider upgrading the latest version? Yeah, I would upgrade to the latest version. And then SSH and HTTP are open. Ensure they're secured with strong passwords. 100% something that we would want to do on this. So D, all of the above, makes sense. And so D is going to be our correct answer on that one. There you have it. There you have it. All right, question number 4. As part of the system hardening practices, you need to disable unnecessary services on a Linux server. Here's a current list of the running services, and they include all of these. We can see all of these services running. Which services should we consider disabling to improve security? What recommendation would you utilize? If you were looking at this, what would your recommendation be? I feel like that's the answer we're looking for here. It's not giving us a option for none, right? So it is telling us we have to disable one of them. So we know we have to disable at least one. What do you think? What do you think on this? And this is not the easiest one out there. What do you think, though? What do you think? I know a lot of acronyms too, so you got to know these programs. All of these are in PenTest Plus and CEH. All of these you would need to know. What do you think? We have ACPID, we have Apache 2, we have SSH, and we have Postfix and rsync. Postfix and rsync. What do you think? All right. If you need more time, go ahead and pause it. We're going to answer this one. Well, ACPID is Advanced Configuration and Power Interface Daemon. It handles power-related events on the system. Not something I would want to disable. It could be an option if we're not really worried about the management features for our power, but not something that's on the top of my list. Not something I would normally relate and say, hey, I want to get rid of this. Apache 2. Do I want to disable my web server? Probably not an option. Probably not an option that I would want to do. Because it's not telling me the context of the server. It's not telling me what the server is for. But chances are that if it's running Apache, it's running web services. And if I just disable them, then is that going to improve security? Oh, sure, it'll improve security. But am I shutting down services that we need to utilize as well? Probably not a good idea. Probably not a good idea. So C and D. It's between C and D. Do I want to get rid of Secure Shell, or do I want to get rid of Postfix? What do you think? Right? Well, we know Secure Shell is used for remote access to the service, and we manage the server remotely a lot of times using SSH. And then Postfix is a mail server, right? And rsync is the utility used to synchronize the files between those systems. And so if the server is not being used to send or receive mail, then we can probably disable Postfix, right? We really need more context for this one. I feel like if we only have to pick one, if we had to pick one between SSH and Postfix, I would say that having SSH is a requirement for running Apache, right? And so with that in mind, I would feel like Postfix would be something that I would likely have an unnecessary service for, probably something that I don't need. And so it would be appropriate choice to improve our security to remove that by disabling an unnecessary service. I feel like that's something we can get rid of. And so the correct answer on this one is going to be D. It's going to be D. Postfix and rsync are probably something I don't need, especially since SSH is so widely used for Apache 2. And so the correct answer is going to be D on this one. And there you have it. It is D. All right, last question. Last question. You need to create a simple bash script that prints hello world. Which of the following script is correct? I know some people are going to be, wait a minute. Are you telling me that I need to know bash for PenTest Plus? Yes. Yes, you do. Matter of fact, if you look at PenTest Plus, it lists Bash, it lists Ruby, it lists Python. And while you don't necessarily need to write the script, you need to be able to identify if the script is viable. If can you read it? You don't need to be able to write it, right? Nobody's asking you to be a computer programmer, but you need to know the basic commands. And so which of the following scripts is correct in this? Which ones could we utilize to say hello world, to print out hello world, right? And so what do you think? What do you think on this one? Again, we don't want to spend more than a minute. And again, if you want to be a pen tester, if you're having a lot of problems with some of these questions I'm asking, I'm going to tell you, this one I would relate is medium. I would relate this as medium on this one. What was the last one? What was the last one? I would relate that one's hard. That would be a hard one. All right, let's tackle this one. If you need more time, go ahead and pause the video. Go ahead and pause the video. All right, so let's tackle A first, right? So echo hello world. It's not complete. It's missing some stuff. It's just the echo, so it's not going to work because it's missing some script in there. So can't be that one, right? It's missing the rest of the command, and so it won't work. It's not going to print anything. It's going to be an error, and so it cannot be A. A is the first one I would get rid of. What about B? B, bin bash echo hello world. 100% B would allow us to print out hello world. It would do it right on the system. What about C? What about C? With the SH instead of the bash, would it allow us to print out hello world? And the answer is yes, it would, because it combines the shebang with the echo command, that SH, right? We see the shebang, right? I can't say shebang without singing the song, right? It's correct, but not the standard format. And then we have D, both B and C. The answer's D, because it does do both B and C. B and C are both correct. If D wasn't there, and it gave us another wrong command, which one would I pick? I would pick B. I would pick B, because B is the more common way of doing it. It's the better way of doing it. But in this case, for this question, it's asking us, do we want both B and C? In this case, it is, and technically C is a correct version. We could still do it on our Linux box using this type of command. And so the answer is going to be D, both B and C. Not my favorite, but definitely does it.